Every other piece of a drum kit makes a sound of its own. A drumstick makes none. It just decides how everything else does, which is why the cheapest thing on the kit can completely rewire a drummer's sound. So here is every major type of drumstick explained. The 5A. Before any of the exotic stuff, meet the one stick almost everyone starts on. The 5A. To understand it, you have to crack the code stamped on every pair. The number is really about thickness, and it's counterintuitive. The lower the number, the fatter the stick. The letter is about where the stick was meant to be played. The old story is that A stood for orchestra, B for band, S for street, and D for dance. Though drummers have argued about that origin for decades, a 5A lands right in the middle of everything. Medium diameter, medium weight, fast but not flimsy. That balance is exactly why it's the default in rock, pop, funk, and the practice room. The reference is the Vic Firth American Classic 5A, probably the best-selling drumstick on earth. And Vic Firth knew a thing or two about a good stick. He was the principal timpanist of the Boston Symphony who started carving his own out of pure frustration with what the shops were selling. He built an empire because nothing on the shelf was good enough for him. The 7A. Now take that same 5A and shave it down. That's the 7A. Thinner, lighter, and with noticeably less mass out at the tip. Less mass means less volume and a much lighter feel, so the stick almost disappears in your hand. And when a stick weighs less, it rebounds faster and asks for less effort, which is why the 7A rewards finesse instead of force. That makes it the classic size for jazz, for quiet gigs, and for young players learning control before they learn power. But there's a hidden cost. With less mass behind it, a 7A projects less, and needs a cleaner technique to sound good, so it exposes sloppy hands that a fat stick would forgive. The Vic Firth American Classic 7A is the standard here, and the Zildjian 7A sits right beside it, both a hair thinner and shorter than their 5A cousins. The connection to speed is real too. Bebop drummers like Max Roach built their blistering, feathery ride patterns on light sticks that could move faster than a heavy one ever could. A generation later, a teenage Tony Williams pushed that same lightness even further inside Miles Davis's second great quintet. Turning speed and touch into a whole new language. A thin stick won't survive a metal gig, but it'll teach you to play so the drums do the work instead of your arms. The 2B. Go the other direction and you get the 2B. Thick, heavy, and built like a fence post. More diameter means more mass. And more mass means more volume, more durability, and a much bigger sound before anything even breaks. The trade is speed. All that weight is slower to move, so you sacrifice some finesse for pure power. That's why the 2B lives in loud rock, in metal, in marching and rudimental practice, where educators love it because it forces your hands to work harder and get stronger. The theory being that a lighter stick feels effortless once you've trained on a heavy one. The Vic Firth American Classic 2B is the workhorse, with the slightly slimmer 5B sitting as the popular middle ground between it and the 5A, thick enough to hit hard but still quick enough to keep up. And John Bonham built the loudest drum sound of his era, partly on oversized Hickory sticks. So big they were nicknamed trees, the same thunder you hear on Led Zeppelin's When the Levee Breaks. In the modern era, Travis Barker keeps that thick stick tradition alive. His signature Zildjian model is a notably fat stick, built to survive the relentless high-speed punk he plays with Blink 182. A 2B doesn't ask you to play louder. He makes it impossible to play quiet. Wood versus nylon tips. Same stick, same weight. But the tiny bead on the end changes the whole voice. A wood tip is softer, so it spreads its contact and gives you a warmer, rounder, darker sound, especially on a ride cymbal. Swap it for a nylon tip and everything gets harder and more focused, brighter, more cutting, with a clearer ping that stays consistent because the plastic barely wears down. Nylon also survives far longer than wood, which chips and mushrooms over time until the sound goes dull. That consistency is why a lot of recording drummers reach for nylon. The tone stays identical, from the first take to the last. The catch is that a nylon tip can crack or fly clean off mid-song and sail into the third row. This one has a clear inventor. Joe Collado patented the nylon tip in the late 1950s and built Regal Tip around it, solving the problem of wooden beads splintering under heavy players. So the next time a plastic tip rockets across the stage, you know exactly who to thank. Tip shape. Even within wood tips, the shape of the bead quietly rewires the sound. because the shape decides how much of it touches the cymbal. A big barrel tip lays down a wide contact patch, so you get a fat, full, spread out tone. A small round or ball tip touches almost a single point, so it gives you a tight, focused, glassy ping that jazz players chase on the ride. In between sit the teardrop and the acorn, each trading a little spread for a little focus, and there's a durability angle too. A pointed tip concentrates wear onto a tiny spot, while a rounder bead spreads it out and lasts longer. This is why signature sticks obsess over the bead. Steve Gadd's Vic Firth model uses a specific barrel tip built to pull a big, dark, unmistakable sound out of a cymbal, part of why his ride feel is so instantly recognizable. The fat, hypnotic groove you hear on Steely Dan's Aja and Paul Simon's 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. Change nothing but the shape of a piece of wood the size of a jelly bean, and you've changed the instrument. The taper. Look at the long, thinning neck between the shaft and the tip. That's the taper, and it's the most underrated spec on the whole stick. A long taper leaves more thin wood flexing near the front, so the stick bends and rebounds faster and feels light and whippy in the hand. A short taper keeps the wood thick almost all the way to the tip, so the stick feels stiff, front heavy, and hits with more brute force. And it survives longer because there's simply more wood to break. So taper is really a dial between response and durability, and it also shifts the balance point. A short taper pushes the weight forward, which is why heavy hitters like it, while a long taper pulls the balance back toward your hand for finesse. Peter Erskine's Vic Firth signature leans on a longer taper tuned for exactly that quick, articulate cymbal touch. The fluid, singing ride sound of his years with Weather Report and Steps Ahead. At the far other end, Terry Bozzio plays some of the longest sticks in the business, the reach he needs to patrol the enormous kit he built playing Frank Zappa's music, including the famously punishing The Black Page. A marching-style stick, by contrast, keeps a short, stubby taper just to survive the beating. It's the part of the stick nobody talks about and everybody feels. Hickory, maple, and oak. Then there's the wood itself, and the three main choices are basically a hardness scale. Hickory is dense but flexible, so it absorbs shock well and shrugs off abuse, which is why it's the default for the vast majority of sticks made today. Maple is lighter and less dense, so it moves faster and feels featherweight, perfect for speed and quiet playing, but it dents and breaks sooner. Japanese oak is the opposite extreme, heavier and harder than hickory, brutally durable, but it transmits more of every hit straight back into your hands. So the wood you pick is a trade between weight, durability, and how much the stick punishes your wrists over a long night. There's a sound difference too. Denser wood transfers more energy into the drum, so oak tends to feel a touch louder and more solid, while maple's give softens the attack. Neil Peart's long-running ProMark signature was cut from hickory precisely for that balance of power and staying power under a player who never stopped moving. The relentless, machine-tight attack all over Rush classics like Tom Sawyer and YYIZ. Pick maple and the stick flatters your speed. Pick oak and the stick outlives you. Brushes. Now we stop hitting and start sweeping. A brush is a fan of thin wires, or sometimes plastic bristles. And instead of striking the drum, it drags across the head, so the sound isn't a hit at all, but a soft, continuous shish. That sweeping motion is why brushes rule jazz ballads, where a full blast stick would flatten the whole song. Most brushes are retractable, pulling the wires back into the handle to protect them and to let you change the spread. A wide fan for a soft wash, a tight one for more articulation. Fixed brushes give up that flexibility for a more consistent, springier feel that some players swear by. Regal Tip and Vic Firth both make the standard references here. The undisputed master was Ed Thigpen, nicknamed Mr. Taste, whose feather-light brushwork with the Oscar Peterson trio set the standard, and who literally wrote the book on the technique. It's called The Sound of Brushes. Beside him, Clayton Cameron, the brush master, turned brush playing into a show of its own behind singers like Tony Bennett. As drum legend has it, the whole idea grew out of fly swatters, so an entire branch of jazz vocabulary may owe its existence to swatting bugs. Rods and multi-rods. Sitting right between a stick and a brush is the rod. Take a bundle of thin wooden dowels, wrap them together, and you get a tool with real attack but a fraction of the volume, because the dowels flex and spread on impact instead of transferring one solid hit. Loosen the band and the bundle rattles and softens. Tighten it up near the tip and it stiffens back toward a real stick, so the same rod covers a whole range of volumes. That controllable volume is the whole point, which is why rods are the secret weapon for coffee shop gigs and unplugged sets where a real stick would be far too loud but a brush would vanish. ProMark put them on the map with the hot rods, and you'll find close cousins in the Vic Firth Root and the Regal Tip Blastics, each with a slightly different number and thickness of dowel. It's the honest compromise for a drummer told to play, but quieter. A phrase every drummer has heard and none has enjoyed. Mallets. Finally, throw the hard tip away entirely. A mallet swaps the wooden bead for a head wrapped in felt, wool, or yarn, and that soft surface has no hard attack at all. So instead of a sharp hit, you get a rounded swell that blooms up out of nothing. That's exactly what you want to roll a cymbal into a slow, cinematic wash, or to play toms with a deep-pitched orchestral body underneath a ballad. The softer the rap, the slower and warmer the swell. A harder felt gives a little more definition back, so drummers keep a few grades on hand. There's a real technique to it too. Because a mallet has no crack, you often roll two of them together on a cymbal to build the wash smoothly instead of striking once. Vic Firth's soft yarn and felt mallets are the studio go-to, and their weight and hardness are graded much like an orchestral timpani mallet. No surprise, given where the company came from. It's the one tool on this list that makes a drum kit sound like it's trying to score a move.